Hi, everybody. It's Allie Marie. I am an international best-selling author. I am coming on today to talk about my new book, Journey Through the Soul to Find a New Beginning, and the process and everything I went through going through Journey. So I wrote Journey kind of as a way of healing more of myself, parts of myself that were long forgotten, that I hadn't been able to heal through necessarily a conscious modality of healing. So when I started writing Journey, I had just finished writing Isis, Mother of Magic, or even I might have actually already written Isis. I probably finished Jaguar Medicine. It's probably what I finished before that, and it was very healing experience for me. Writing in general is very healing. I started writing in my early 20s. I wrote 2 books, and I actually started writing before that. I wrote in high school. I wrote poems and things like that. But in my early 20s, I wrote 2 books about my knight in shining armor riding up on the white horse to save me from the life that I was leading at the time. I was being heavily abused by my children's father. And I actually messaged the author, Kate Noble, and I was like, hey, what do you do when you think your books are complete crap? I just want to delete them. And she's like, don't delete them. Um, Everybody at one time or another thinks their books are crappy, but don't delete them. You can send them out to publishers and everything. And in the end, I ended up deleting them. One, because I thought they were crap, and two, because I didn't want to get in trouble for imagining a different kind of life for myself other than, what I was living at the time. If my ex had found them at the time, it wouldn't have been very pretty for me. Um, so I started writing to heal that part of myself, and as I was writing, things would come up that I would write about, and my children were like, Mom, why are you crying? And I would like release, whatever memory there was, or whatever feeling I was feeling at the moment, whether it be sadness or, grief or anger or anything. It was a very good outlet to release these emotions. So I would work my way through the process. I started my healing journey kind of unknowingly in 2016 when I had a miscarriage. Um, I just started writing, and I would write and I would write and write. And I would write at work. I was working at Evacor Healthcare, and I would write at work. And some people didn't like it, and they told on me like we were in junior high or something. But that was my process for healing what I was going through at the time. I was healing my grief. I was healing my hurt. I was healing from the abusers that I had, and I didn't know it at the time that I was doing that. I was just writing, and I knew that I felt better after I wrote whatever I was writing. I would write a poem, I would write a short story, and there was just some kind of release, and I would feel better through writing. Um, and I had to go through my miscarriage alone. The guy would tell me that, I was making it up, and it was all in my head, and this was part of his gaslighting that I had gone through for a very long time, upwards of 10 years. And then I went through that. Um, and finally, it kind of stopped. Um, I'd say a year or two ago, we had to go through court, and went to court for custody of my children. And they say everything comes out in the wash, and it really did. And so I don't have to be afraid anymore. I don't have to live that life, and that's really what my healing journey is about. I met my twin flame in 2017, and that's when my spiritual healing journey took off, like my conscious spiritual journey. I didn't know what twin flames were. I didn't know anything about spirituality. Growing up in the Catholic world that I did, anything to do with spirituality was evil. My mom is kind of like Bobby Boucher's mom, where she says everything is evil. like little girls is the devil. That's kind of like my mom, but with everything. So I got into spirituality and I started buying tarot cards and oracle cards. And she's like, "Oh, that's evil. The occult is evil," and all kinds of stuff. But I continued down my healing path because I found God outside of church where God was supposed to be. And I've had spiritual experiences that I've never found in a church. I've never found anywhere but within myself, within my own soul, with what I was doing. So I really focused on healing this part of myself, and I kept going with everything that I was doing. I started my Reiki healing. I went through class. I got my Reiki master certificate. I started healing classes, and everything just snowballed from there. And that's what started me down my path of healing my soul. And that's why my book is called Journey Through the Soul, to find a new beginning. Because in the process of healing myself, I found a new way to be. I found a new way of living. I was no longer the scared girl who was living in her house, too afraid to open the shutters for fear of her abuser being outside her house at 2 in the morning. I no longer had to fear my neighbor calling my abuser with every little thing that I did, so he knew exactly what I was doing at all times. I didn't have to be afraid that he was going to slash my tires for having a friend over. I didn't have to be afraid of these things anymore. I didn't have to be afraid of him body slamming me on my head with my entire weight, because that was no longer going to happen to me. I took my power back. I stood in my sovereignty. And when I wrote Sovereign, this is where I say that I started, really getting me back, but in a different way. I became um, I became more powerful in my own sovereignty and my truth and what had happened to me. My older children, got kidnapped when they were, I think, 8 and 9, 8 and 10, I think, in 2017, and yeah, 8 and 10, and I ended up losing them in Pueblo County, Colorado, and they were never from Pueblo. The case never should have reached Pueblo. The judge never should have sided with him, but he sided with him, and I say that I lost. I lost from just sheerly naive. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know um, who to turn to. I trusted the wrong people. My lawyer was very wasn't good. um, so through my own lack of knowledge and whatnot, I lost my kids. Like, he was on drugs. I didn't know that I could request a drug test. He said that I was on drugs and that I was in the bar every night. I have literally seen a bar maybe a handful of times in my life. I've been to a club a couple times, but he would say I left the kids home alone to go to the bar. I've never done that. So there's a part in my book where I talk about my old oak tree, which is my grandpa, and he was sitting with me in court one day, on the day that I lost my kids, and I literally couldn't stand anymore. I was overcome with emotion, and I don't know if weak is the proper term, but there were tears in my eyes. I couldn't see through the tears. And he literally held me up. He was there every single day of my trial. It wasn't trial, but my court dates, my court hearings. He was there every day. He stood as witness for me, testifying that I did not do drugs or anything like that. And my abuser, their dad, actually died in a car accident on every drug you can possibly imagine. Thankfully, my kids were home with me and safe. because he was on his way to pick them up, and they didn't get in the car with him to go back to the other town that he was living in with his so-called wife. I believe that's also in the book. We were actually never divorced. She was not really his wife. So it was just a big mess that he had made for everybody, and that I allowed into my life and into my children's lives. And it's just been a really big healing journey. And when I met my twin flame, like I said, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that my feelings for this person were extremely intense. I knew that from the first literally moment that I saw him, that my whole life was going to change and turn upside down. I didn't know how, but everything was just so intense and so so heightened, I guess. Like if you watch the Vampire Diaries, how their senses are heightened, that's how it felt, I guess. It was just so intense. And I remember when we stopped talking, I was so hurt and I was so devastated. And I had to find myself through that, because I could have literally got lost in the hurt and the sheer agony of the moment. I remember one night that I was in so much pain emotionally that I just dropped to my knees crying